Okay, this is a short off-the-cuff response video to Theoretical Bullshit's latest video, What If I'm Wrong? And I want to say first about it, I think it's an excellent idea. Everyone, regardless of their position on the issues regarding theology or politics or morality, they always should do what Theoretical Bullshit's doing here and consider honestly and sincerely the possibility that they might be wrong. It's not just important for intellectual integrity and intellectual honesty. It really is just a wise and useful thing to do. So I admire the general project of seriously trying to contemplate what would happen if we're wrong about these issues. Richard Dawkins was asked this question once, and rather famously on YouTube, he gave an excoriating response to the woman who asked him. And it was his response was both rhetorically very powerful and philosophically with a lot of insight, but at the same time I can't help but feel that there is at least a degree of intellectual dishonesty in Dawkins' response, simply because he never really contemplated the question, at least not on stage. Now, he's a polemicist, of course. He's not simply interested in argument. He's trying to make a point, so maybe from the point of view of strategy, that was the best thing to do. But I would like to actually sort of pin Richard Dawkins down, and ask sincerely, answer this question straightforward. What if you are wrong? What happens next? And Theoretical Bullshit has done that. So props to him. Let me also say that I really admire Theoretical Bullshit in general. I think his videos are great. If you guys haven't subscribed, I would totally recommend checking his stuff out. But I have a bit of a problem with the premise of his latest conjecture, and this, because I've tried to do this before. I've tried to imagine, what if I am wrong about God, and if I die and go up and find that God is real, what would I think? I seriously have tried this before, so I'm familiar with the general territory that he's treading. But what I keep running into is the following problem. Let's say that I die, and contrary to what I think will happen, I don't just cease to exist. I do go on to some sort of afterlife, and I come before some entity, some being. Maybe this being is depicted in the way that holy books often depict him as being, radiant and glorious and so forth and wonderful and powerful. Theoretical Bullshit just says, what if I come before the Christian God? My question is, A, how would you know it's the Christian God? But that's almost more sort of the trivial one. Maybe he would say, I am the Christian God. So I think the real question is, how would you know it's God? I mean, how could you know that it's God? What would you experience that would convince you completely that it's God? I mean, obviously, whatever such a being is very powerful. It could demonstrate power, no doubt. It could also demonstrate, some sort of transcendence, not being of the mortal coil, the whole afterlife idea. All that it could demonstrate, I think, without too much difficulty. But how does it demonstrate that it is all-powerful? I mean, what could it do to distinguish itself from just a very powerful being? There doesn't seem to be any possible thing it could do to prove that it's all-powerful. The best it could do is prove that it's very powerful. Same thing with all-knowing. How could it demonstrate that it's all-knowing as opposed to just very knowledgeable? It might know an awful lot. It might know everything that I can think of about me and my life, but how does that prove it's all-knowing? I'll throw my back to the couple of videos ago. How would I know that this wasn't the devil? And the devil is very powerful. The devil is cunning and conniving, so it might be trying to trick me and making it think it's God and make it think it's loving and benevolent and so forth, but it's all just a setup for the cosmic punchline that's going to happen 1,000 years from now or something like that. How could you distinguish between the two? Now, the point that I want to take from this is that you don't have to wait until you die for this to happen. I want to know what possible experience you could have during your lifetime. This is my cat right here, by the way, who's jumping up in my lap. She's curious what I'm doing, I guess. What could happen in your lifetime that could convince you that you've had an experience of God, as opposed to just a very powerful being or a very powerful entity? I cannot imagine any conceivable experience that could convince me such an entity exists. And it's not because I'm stubborn or obstinate, but simply because I see no way of distinguishing a very powerful being from an all-powerful being, from a very knowledgeable being from an all-knowing being. It just doesn't seem possible to me